Hello everybody, polepositionrc.com here, and in this video we're going to be showing you what is inside the front axle of the HPI Venture FJ Cruiser. So we're going to show you how to take it off, what's inside, and also how to grease it, and just make sure everything's nicely water resistant, let's say, for all your trail driving needs. So without further ado, let's get out a 2mm wrench. And also, for this procedure, we've got if the wrench will let go, a 5.5mm wrench. And we're only going to need that, I think, for one step. No, for two. So the first thing is we're going to take off the steering link that comes down to this aluminum plate steering arm. We've already taken off the wheels, obviously, as you can see. It just makes things a bit easier for us. So we're just going to reattach that there so we don't lose it. So now that's free. Also, when we're doing reassembly, we're going to make sure that we have some thread locker available. The blue stuff is all you need. You don't need the red stuff. That's more for engines and high temperature, really stuff that you'll never want to remove again. But if that's all you have, like I did on a couple other steps, then it should be okay. Just use a very small amount, nowhere near the normal amount of thread lock that you would normally use. Okay, so we're taking off the panhard bar there. Now we're taking off the third link, if it will come off. Doesn't seem to. No, it's attached back there. So I'm going to leave that for now. And we're going to take off the steering link so we can remove the shocks. So we got that 5.5mm. Just need to rearrange things here. Kind of all over the place with the shots, and I apologize for that, but I don't have a colossal amount of space here. So I'm knocking over a couple things, trying to make sure that I get all this work in the shot. So here we're taking off this is the second link that holds on the drag link of the behind the axle steering. So there's the steel drag link. Now we can get at the shocks to remove the lower the lower mounts of the shocks. So, and again, it's just really easy to not lose anything by putting the nuts and screws back in the holes where they came out of. Okay, so now the shocks are removed. Let's get these, let's get these aluminum clamps off the suspension mounts. That will let us take off the front links, the lower links. Okay. And again, just going to reattach them just with a few threads so that we know exactly where those screws are going to go when we're reassembling. Okay, so now the last thing holding the axle in place is this upper link, which is pretty securely attached. So I'm just going to use a rag, actually, cloth rag. And a pair of slip joint pliers, and just hold that only as firmly as I need to, because I don't really want to scratch things at this stage. There we go. Okay. That shock's in the way. I'm just putting the screw back into that upper link. Alright, now we can just pull that off. And there is the universal. That's the front universal of the center drivetrain. I'm just removing the pin, the cross pin. Just going to reattach it now. And you can see the first of the metal shielded ball bearings. I've also got ball bearings in the outer axles, and there's also 2 ball bearings that hold the diff in place. Okay, so now there's also 2 bearings here, so in the steering upright, front upright. So just going to remove, that's actually just a grub screw. It's not too ornery. Just take the pin out. So that only needs to be loosened. So there we are. Now go back to the 2mm. Get these uprights off. So now here's where it starts to maybe get a little ropey with the screws. Just make sure you don't mix them up. 4 of those, and that lets the upright come off and lets you access the screws that are, or the bearings that are in the uprights. So I'm going to take the other one off. Okay, so there's the front axle, so we'll just take those out. Now these, let's see here. These are quite short screws. Yeah, so going to be pretty hard to get those mixed up, so that'll be easy. So last screw of these, and we can get, this should slide off. There we are. And that, you see that there's the seam there. So basically that's clamping that shut, and then the steering upright connects to that one. So they are marked. So there's an R there, you can just see, and then there's an L somewhere in that one. So if you remember, that's obviously the upright. So this is the front. Obviously the hex doesn't really help tell you what's upright or not, but just remember that this hump here is to the left as you're looking at the front of the truck. Okay. So now, the only thing holding the axle together are these 6 screws that go all the way to the back. Now, the ones on top are a bit longer because they go through this piece here. And the ones on the bottom, obviously, are a bit shorter. So, Gonna have to get to those with 1.5 mil screw hex wrench, so we'll just skip ahead for a bit. Very cool. Okay, so there we are. We've got all 6 of those screws are out and they're sitting right there. It's actually easier to split the plastic case open to get that diff cover off. And the reason why I want to get that off is because now is a perfect time to paint this and just customize it up a bit, because it'll look awesome once I get some color on it. So I'm gonna go do that right now, because I want to let the paint dry and such while I'm doing all the greasing, and then hopefully it'll be at least dry to the touch by the time I get it out, because I don't mind if it gets scraped up a bit on my drive this weekend, but I do want to get some color on this because it will look awesome. So I'll be right back and we'll talk about this. Alright, and we're back. So a few minutes of airbrushing and there we are. A nicely lacquered bright orange diff cover. So that's going to go in place when we do the reassembly. So set that aside and just let it finish curing. So let's see, where are we at here? So first of all, got these screws are being ornery. Let's see. So there's our pinion gear, there's our ring gear. We've got a bearing inside here that I want to get greased. If things will cooperate with me. Let's get some of these. There we are. 2 bearings. Okay, so let's just get some of this existing blue grease even. Just get that inside there, so that inside metal race, the shield of the bearing is nicely covered up and protected. Because a big gloop of grease doesn't seem to have worked its way around the gears all that well inside here. So where's our red tub? So again, like the other videos I've done, just using this stuff, it is resistance to water, cold weather, rust, corrosion, acid, alkali, chassis and wheel bearing protection. So again, like I said, no, this is not like the correct marine grease that everyone seems to be using, but you know what? This isn't a real boat. It's not going to be doing any sort of distance in the water, and it's not going to be doing the kinds of miles or weight bearing that a real truck or car is going to be doing. So I'm not worried about getting the exact right grease that everyone seems to be using to maintain, like, tractor trailer trucks or something like that. I'm not worried about that. So anyway, that little aside, I'm just going to get grease all up in these bearings on both sides of these diff bearings. Don't necessarily really need to take them off. These lock diffs. Although maybe this one might need to come off. I'm going to see if I can kind of just goop it in though. This is just in case water does get inside the axle. Now I'm aware that this is an RTR truck. It's not a not a pro racing buggy or anything like that. So it's not going to have the highest quality bearings that you can find. If you're really concerned about that, go get some Bocas or ceramic something or other bearings. but not worried about that in this case. So just using the existing grease because it was just all kind of pooled around the middle of the diff case. So want to make sure that anywhere that water might be able to get in, it won't be able to. Now, one thing to keep in mind is to cover up all the holes, because water can get in there, and you don't want stagnant, stinky, horrible, manky rust water or swamp water or whatever you're driving in to be getting inside your axles here. So just making sure that we cover up any of the screw holes, and we're going to do this on both sides and also all around the edges. You can see it's almost a lost cause trying to keep clean doing this. So the other side, same thing. We've got the same holes. And the other topic is that you don't want to pack it too much full of grease, because then the motor will really struggle. If this is completely packed full of grease, the motor's going to struggle to turn these gears. Okay, so I think we're about ready to start reattaching everything. So remember, we've got these pieces go on the outsides and then the uprights, but that diff cover comes over that, and then the drive shaft connects back onto there. Before we go on though, we've got the axle bearings. So we're just covering up the inside, and then we'll pack the outside. Now if you really wanted, you can get rubber seal bearings. Those are a little bit more secure. Possibly. Just depends on the quality of bearing you get. You know, if you're familiar with bicycles or skateboards or rollerblades or anything like that, you'll know that there's ABEC 1 through 5, I think it is, or maybe 7, I think is as high as it goes now. So you can go really, really far, spending lots and lots of money on really high quality bearings. Not the Chinese stuff. The best stuff you can get is generally going to be from, if not the US, it's going to be like German or Swiss bearings. So I'm just trying to keep a little bit clean here. Okay, now let's get we're just dipping the ends of the axles in place, and we're just trying to get them inside there. And there we are. Okay, now remember, this is the left or the right side of the truck, because like I said before, that hump where this big ring gear is needs to be on the left side as you look. So when you turn it around, it's going to be the right side of the truck. So we're looking for the right side piece. That's the left, and there's the right, and that will come over this piece here. Actually, what we want to do is just give this a wipe down so we don't have a massive amount of grease. A little bit of grease is okay, but like big gloops of grease is not really, because it's just going to collect mud and grime. We're just putting it on the axles here. Okay. So we've got that. That's the left. Here's the right. Oh, my bad. The axle goes on after this is put in. So pay attention, kids. Okay, and same deal here. We want to make sure that when we are pressing this, there's no major gaps in the line of grease. So there we are. And it looks like we've got everything covered, so we're going to take that back out because that's not meant to go on just yet. And then I think that is actually upside down, because you need to be able to read it from the back side. There. That is the correct way. And this one is going to go there, and then the axle again. Now we get our paper towel again. Now you could try to be super clean about this and get some brake cleaning fluid and whatnot on a rag and spray this down, but you don't want to remove all the grease. You do want some grease on there still, obviously, you know, so you're not removing everything inside. Okay, so we're nearly there. So we're putting more grease on where this diff cover is going to be going. Now, word of warning, where these holes are, it's going to be pushing the grease through if you put too much grease inside. So just be aware of that. Alright, so let's do the axle last. Okay. No, sorry, the center drive shaft last, I mean. And there we are. Look at that. That looks so cool. Okay. Now remember, we've got 6 screws. There are 3 that are long and 3 that are short for these diff covers. Okay, so you can clearly see which ones are which. The short ones go on the bottom. I'm not going to be too worried about scratching this because it will get scratched up. I'm going to be driving this for a very long weekend, but I don't want to scratch it up necessarily right now. So I'm going to put these 6 screws on. This piece here is going to go on the back like that, because that's where the third link connects to, and that's why you have the long screws at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to attach all these screws and fast forward a bit, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got the 6 bolts back in place, and we're just going to try futilely to do a little bit of cleanup here. Okay, so the one set of bearings that we haven't gotten to yet are the ones in the C-hubs, which are these. So just going to pop these out. This bearing's a little bit tight on the axle. There we go. And let's see. So we just need to get really just one axle off of each one. It's not really critical which one we get off, but it seems to be the inside one for each of these. So we're just going to run some grease inside there. Run some grease along the outside. And then on the inside of this bearing, and again on the outside of that bearing, which is the inside bearing. Okay, so that should be more than enough grease. There we are, and we're just going to put a bit of grease on the inside there. That's probably too much, but it'll be okay. Now, if you can't use, if your finger can't fit or whatever, a brush or something will be fine. Or you can get like little syringes. You can get overpriced RC hobby ones, or you can get other ones that are, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly where you get them, but you can get syringes that are just for distributing oil into tight places. You don't need to get a grease gun, like a full-size car type grease gun. Seen lots of people doing that. I think it's just a little bit overkill, but unless you have tons and tons of RC cars. So there we are. Lots of grease everywhere. It's very, very messy, but this is hopefully the last time you'll need to do it. Okay, now we're going to put the short screws into these straight axle bits and basically just reassemble everything back the way you came. But before you do that, let's get some grease on this universal right here. So there are 4 of these on the truck, and it's not a bad idea to get some grease on them, and also some Loctite on that nut, the crosspin nut. Okay, and that's it pretty much. We'll get everything back together and wrap up. Okay, so that is it. I hope. It's a little bit messier than I thought it would be, but you know, we're done, and it's all okay. So there we go. We've got a fully greased front end bearings and all the axles, the axle, all the bearings, all the connectors, all the seals. Everything is fully greased, and that looks amazing. I can't wait to get some more actual scratches on it. So there we go. Now that is the front end. Obviously the rear end is much simpler. There's a lot less to it. Obviously there's no steering, it's just a straight axle adapter. There's no panhard bar, no steering link, or links I should say. So there's a lot less pieces to it. It's much, much simpler. And yeah, so there you go. So now you know what the inside looks like and what what to look for when you're greasing the axles on the Venture. So if you found that helpful, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with your friends. Don't be afraid to please don't be afraid to post it anywhere. If you have any questions or comments down below in the comment section, be happy to answer any questions you might have, or help out as much as I can. So that is about it, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.